So another treaty that you need to know is Pinckney's Treaty. So Pinckney's Treaty in 1795, what happens is Charles Pinckney is going to make a treaty. He makes a treaty with Spain. And what the treaty basically is going to allow the United States is the right of deposit to the port of New Orleans. So the United States will go ahead and will be able to actually drop off equipment, goods at the port of New Orleans, and we get navigational rights to the Mississippi River. Now that might not seem like it's really important to you, but when you look at back then, the whole way that they actually traded was through the river systems. So now we're going to be able to get the actual right of deposit here at the Port of New Orleans, and we're going to get navigational rights to this area, to the Mississippi River. So we can go up and down, and we make this treaty, the United States makes it with Spain. During this time period, during Washington's time in office, we're having the French Revolution that's going on, and the French Revolution is a little crazy. The American Revolution is considered the most perfect revolution. We, overthrow King George III, and then we create this new government, the Articles of Confederation. That doesn't work, and then we recreate a new government, and this time it would be under the Constitution. But the French Revolution is like crazy. It's all over the place. And so the French people, they're tired of Louis the 16th and Marie Antoinette. They're tired of like the blatant richness, the extravagant lifestyle that these guys are leading. And they go ahead and they decide to overthrow their monarchy as well. They believe that the United States should help them. Now, why do they believe that? It's because the French, under Louis the 16th, they helped us during the American Revolution. And so the French people think that the United States should get involved and that we should side with the French people, not the monarchy. Jefferson, who loves the French, he supported the French Revolution because what he believed was that this was an extension of our revolution, that more democracies needed to be established throughout the world. And what you have to look at is that really throughout the world in this time period, the late 1700s, there's not really that many democracies. You have the US, and so the US would feel better, safer at night if the French also have a democracy. So he gets some support, and his supporters, remember, are the Democrat Republicans. So the Democrat Republicans support the French Revolution. The Federalists, like Alexander Hamilton and George Washington, who's not a Federalist, they fear this French Revolution. They believe it's too violent, and it really is. I mean, there's this whole reign of terror by Robespierre where they're, sending everybody to the guillotine. It's just crazy. It's violent, and so Washington is going to advise the United States to remain neutral, remain isolated. Do not take a side in this French Revolution. If we take a side, Washington realizes that Britain is going to get upset because Britain is a limited monarchy, which means they have a constitutional monarchy. So they have a king, a queen, but they also have parliament. And the king and queen are limited in what they can and can't do. So it's a limited monarchy. Basically, their monarchs are figureheads. They get to wave to the crowd at the parade time. So Washington knows that if we side with the French, if we actually help them out in their revolution, we're going to anger the British because the British do not want the French to have a democracy. They don't want them to have this new republic. And so Washington is going to advise our country to remain neutral. He also feels that our country is way too young to get involved into these European wars. In these European wars, I mean, they have wars that last 100 years. And he just feels like it would destroy our economy, and there's a possibility that the U.S. could choose the losing side. And so it would be just safer to say, we choose no side, we'll be neutral. This is going to lead to problems for the future presidents. So under Adams' time, he's going to have a problem with the French and the British. And then you're going to have a problem with Jefferson, and then you're going to have a problem with Madison. So you're going to see this kind of bleeding into the other presidencies as well. But Washington advises us, remain neutral, remain isolated, do not get involved in foreign affairs. When Washington finally does leave office, he served 2 terms as the president. He refuses to serve another. He could have served forever. But in 1796, Washington gives us the great example of a leader who knows when to step down from power. And so Washington steps down and he writes a letter called his farewell address. In his farewell address, he gives us two warnings. He says, don't join political parties. Now, by the time he exits office, the two-party system is firmly established between the Federalists and the Democrat Republicans. He also says, do not join any foreign alliances. Do not get involved in European affairs. Now, the reason why he says no political parties is he says it'll divide the country, it'll cause disagreement and conflict in the country, and it'll destroy us. Then he says that no foreign alliances and involvement. The reason why he says this is if the United States does choose a side, you could choose the losing side, but it also costs money to fight wars, and we're just not quite there. We're just a baby country. You wouldn't send a baby in the war, and so Washington realizes that, and that's why he advises us to remain neutral. There's too much political division that's already going on during his time in office. There's a lot of fighting, and so Washington feels it's best to go ahead and retire to Mount Vernon. And he does retire, and he dies shortly after. The Federalist era is under Washington and Adams as our president. When you look at the beginning part of our nation's history, the federal government is going to become very strong during these early presidents. And it's because they're having to establish the power, the strength of the federal or central government. So the two-party political system has developed. It developed during Washington's administration. You've got Hamilton, who created the Federalists, and Jefferson, who creates the Democrat Republicans. I know you guys learned in civics that these people who believed in states' rights were called the Anti-Federalists. Throw that out. They are a political party now called Democrat Republicans. The Anti-Federalists are not a political party. So the Federalists, Federalist Party, Democrat Republican Party. They have very different roles or very different views on who should rule the government and who should have power. So we're going to look at those viewpoints because you do need to know those for your upcoming exam. For the Federalists, led by Alexander Hamilton, they believed in a strong central government. It's called the federal government for a reason. So if you look at it, federal, and ist is always people, so they believe in a strong central government or a strong national government. They are typically well educated, and they believe, because they're very well educated, they believe that elite members of society should govern. Okay, so elite members would be your people who are educated, they'd be your lawyers, your upper class. They have the support of the New England states, so that would be the northeastern part of the United States. They favor a positive relationship with Britain. They actually want our government to kind of be like the British government. They support the National Bank because Hamilton's their founder and he created the Hamilton's Economic Plan, which created the bank. And they believe in a loose interpretation of the Constitution. Typically, these people are middle class. I mean, I know you guys don't think of lawyers as middle class, but they were kind of back then. They're merchants, they're traders. They normally find their support in the north, like the New England states. That's where their support base is coming from. Now, the Democrat Republicans are going to be led by Thomas Jefferson and James Madison. They believe in small federal government. They favor, instead of having a huge, super big federal government, they favored states' rights. And because they favor states' rights, they're typically viewed as a Southern party. Most of the Southerners in the Western states, they're actually going to favor the Democrat-Republican Party because they have a strong belief system in states' rights. Remember, when you look at the Bill of Rights, the last amendment, the 10th Amendment, says any power not specifically given to the federal government goes to the states. And so this is the amendment that the Democrat Republicans really kind of hold on to a lot. They believe that you should give power to the people, small farmers, average citizens. They have a lot of support from southern and western states, and they favor a strong relationship with France, and that's because Jefferson's their founder, and France is starting to establish a democracy, and so they feel like there's safety in that. They oppose the National Bank, and they oppose it because they say that there's no power to create it. that the federal government does not have the power to actually create the bank. Remember, the creation of the bank is the like sticking point, whether the government has the power or whether they don't. And the Democrat Republicans are strict interpreters of the Constitution. So they kind of believe if it, isn't written, it cannot be done. Okay. So if it's not in black and white, it cannot be done. For the Federalists who believe in this loose interpretation of the Constitution, I always kind of equate them to dreamers. If you can dream it, you can do it. So they just have a different attitude and a different belief system on whether the government has power to do stuff or not. In the 1796 election, John Adams is the Federalist, and he was one of the founders of the Federalist Party, along with Alexander Hamilton, is going to be competing against Thomas Jefferson, who's a Democrat Republican. And in this election, whoever gets the most votes becomes the president, and whoever gets like the runner-up or the first loser position, they get to become your vice president. And so Adam gets the most votes. I mean, he was Washington's VP, so he gets the most votes, and he gets to become the president of the United States. His vice president, the loser, is Thomas Jefferson. So now, if you notice, Adams is a Federalist, and Thomas Jefferson's a Democrat Republican. So as your president, you've got one political party, and for your VP, you got a different political party, which means not much gets done. And it means not much gets done because your vice president should be supporting the presidential program. And that is not how Thomas Jefferson's going to do things. So every time Adams tries to do something, Jefferson is going to kind of undermine him. Anytime Jefferson wants to do something, of course, Adams is going to undermine him. They're basically bitter rivals at this point. And so they don't really get very much done. So when Adams is in office, he's only going to be a one-term president because he just simply does not have the support that he needs. Because every time he tries to do something, Thomas Jefferson basically goes behind his back and talks smack about him all the time. Later, we're going to actually fix this problem of having a vice president and a president of two political parties. We're going to fix it with the 12th Amendment. So from now on, when you go vote for the president, you vote for the president and his running mate who will be his vice president. So when you cast the vote, you cast it for the president and his choice to be the VP. You don't actually have the loser coming in as your VP. And I don't mean to be mean, but that's essentially what it was. So when you look at the election and you look at election results, you can kind of see that there is kind of a close election. I mean, 51% of the people, the electoral votes go to Adams, and you're looking at about 49% go to Jefferson, the Democrat Republican. And the Democrat Republicans are here in the southern states, and the New England states are voting for Adams. And so Adams is from Boston himself. He is a New Englander man, you know. And Jefferson is from Virginia. He's a Southern man. He's a plantation owner. So that's when you look at the results. That's how you can look at it. The XYZ affair is one of these things that Adams has as a challenge. The French have been causing us problems. They've been doing an impressment of our soldiers too. They've been taking our goods on our boats. And so we send ambassadors to France to talk to the French government. And this is our... we're trying to follow our policy of neutrality that Washington set up. And so Adams sends basically peacekeepers over there to France to talk to the French government to get them to stop doing this. So when our ambassadors, our diplomats get there, they are met by three French guys, X, Y, and Z. We don't know who they are. That's why they're called X, Y, and Z. And they tell us that if you want to speak to the French government, you have to pay up. Well, that's not really going to sit well with the United States of America. We don't pay to speak to other governments. And what ends up happening is our diplomats come back here to the United States and they tell the American people about this. And Americans are like rioting in the streets, and we're like, oh, let's kill all the French. We become very anti-French. And finally, Washington, this like policy of neutrality, Adams is going to go ahead and he is going to keep following that, and he's going to just basically get things to calm down. But U.S. is becoming very anti-French and anti-immigrant. We're becoming very nativist, and people blame Adams for this. It's not his fault that these French guys asked for money, but it's under his presidency, and if you're the president, you get blamed for it. So we're outraged with the French, and we almost are on the brink of war, but